I've spent a lot of time recently talking about why Apple is pretty much running the game when it comes to computers, especially portable ones. But if you're loyal to a brand or an operating system, then you might not care about macOS and what Apple has to offer. And if that's the case, let me tell you why I think this has been the perfect laptop for pretty much anybody.
Now, if you've ever had the privilege of downloading and setting up a corporate laptop, I feel for you because it's frustrating and it can be a pain and take forever because firewalls and security and everything, which are necessary for companies. However, it is so frustrating to use when setting up a laptop. That's for sure.
Getting into battery life, the XPX 16 has a 99.5 watt-hour battery and is advertised to last up to 28 hours. In my experience, I have not tested to see if this battery will really last that long, but I can tell you it holds a charge very well, losing only a percent or two over the course of 12 hours of not being used. I do find that the estimated battery life is very dependent on what you're doing on the device. If you have a low brightness and only plan to do small tasks like browsing the web, you can see estimates as high as 12 hours. And recently, I've been trying to use Microsoft Fabric and learn how to use Microsoft Fabric, and while watching content, let's just say that battery estimation can take quite a dive. For 50%, 3.5 hours is a pretty good for full brightness and streaming YouTube. Now, one of my favorite features of this laptop is that it charges in any port you plug it into. So, either of the two USB Cs over here or on this side, it will charge at the full wattage. So, I think that's really cool because you can have it plugged into the left or the right, whatever side is the most convenient for you, and then you don't have to worry about a cable running across your desk in either direction or across your leg, or if your cable is just simply too short, you can still reach and get as far away as possible if you need to. So it's a great feature to have. They've had this in the XPSs for a long time now, and I hope they continue to keep it in the XPSs. When it comes to performance, this laptop is capable of putting in some serious work. Equipped with an Intel Core Ultra 7, an RTX 4050 laptop GPU, 32 gigs of DDR5, and a 1TB SSD, you can push this device pretty hard. This laptop is pretty overkill for any sort of daily task you may need, such as sending emails, responding to Teams, or browsing the web. In my experience, it has had virtually no issues when coding in Jupyter notebooks. I've created a few scripts to process a few large batches of files, and this laptop didn't struggle at all. With Intel's shift towards creating CPUs that are capable of supporting and running on system I figured I would also try to train a simple model on this XPS, and it handled it with ease. Now, in my opinion, I think Dell is one of my favorites when it comes to displays. The XPX lineup has come with a 16 by 10 display, which means it has a slimmer bezel and a little bit more screen real estate. And while it is only a few more pixels, I have really loved working on a 16 by 10 display, and having just a slightly taller window really does make a difference. With a max brightness of 500 nits, the XPS is capable of getting bright enough to use in most situations, unless you're sitting directly under the sun or with a huge spotlight behind you. Combined that with the matte screen to reduce glare, the XPS display has been one of my favorite displays since buying it back in 2020. Now, when it comes to the design, the XPS series has always been beautiful. It's made of a fully aluminum CNC chassis, and you can get it in graphite or in platinum. And one thing to consider is if you don't like fingerprints, the graphite is a serious fingerprint magnet. Now, I do miss the carbon fiber deck on the older XPSs, but having the entire device in the same uniform color looks great too. Now, I will say, when I initially unboxed this laptop, a lot of people told me good luck with the digital touch bar, there's a reason Apple got rid of it, and so on. And so far, the touch bar has been perfectly fine. It's responsive, it switches the display of the modes quickly when I press the function key, and it even senses when I rest my finger on something like the brightness or volume, so that way I don't have to continually tap them up or down. When it comes to the keyboard, I have enjoyed using other keyboards significantly more than this one. Something about the flat and wide keys just doesn't feel very comfortable with my hands, and I find it super easy to press a key and also end up pressing another key at the same time. I much prefer the old XPS 15 keyboard or my personal wireless keyboard much more. Dell did opt for removing the right side control button to replace it with a Copilot key, which can be pretty convenient when I need to pull up an AI chatbot quickly and have an answer quickly. It also works very well because my company has its own version of Copilot, so I can still use my company's Copilot without worrying about sensitive data or anything like that. Now, overall, the experience using this laptop has been pretty good. I've actually really enjoyed using it. I would say that it is a pretty pricey laptop, and if I had to spend my own money on it, I would definitely be worried about spending my own money on it without knowing kind of how the experience is. I think it starts at like $2,000, so it's definitely not cheap. And the touch bar is fine. The trackpad is somewhat annoying sometimes. It just really is, can be finicky on some days, but what trackpads aren't finicky? Overall, though, I've really loved this laptop and I would totally buy it again. If it's in the budget, I would highly suggest that you consider buying one of these if you are very dead set on not buying a Mac, not going for Mac OS. This is a pretty good option. That's all I can say. I think that, for $2,000 plus, this is quite a powerhouse. It can do everything you need. The screen is beautiful. It is really, really nice. And you can option it for even more if you need. If you need a better graphics card, if you need a better processor, whatever, you can do that with this laptop. It will cost a lot of money, but for what it is, I think it's great. It's actually surprisingly pretty light for a 16-inch laptop. They've really improved on this since the XPS 15. On the old XPS 15, there was kind of a gap here, and you could press and close the gap. So it's been improved upon, and I've really loved using this laptop, and I hope that I continue to love using this laptop. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.